Hi everyone, I hope you're all well today. I'm looking forward to our short session, Dharma session. So let's do the chanting immediately and then obviously follow up with the meditations and the Dharma talk. Namo Tassa Bhagavato ArahatoSammaSambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato ArahatoSammaSambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato ArahatoSammaSambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi Buddham saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi Dhammam saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi Sangham saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi Buddham saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi Dhammam saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi Sangham saranam gacchami. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potentials I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May they be free from suffering and its causes. May they never be parted from their happiness beyond suffering. May they abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment to the near, and aversion from the far. I shall cause this. Great compassionate Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every types of offerings, actual and mentally transformed. I confess all of my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in all the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until cyclic existence ends, and turn the wheel of Dharma for all sentient beings. I dedicate the virtues of myself and others to the great enlightenment. However innumerable all sentient beings are, I vow to save them all. However inexhaustible my delusions are, I vow to extinguish them all. However immeasurable the Dharma teachings are, I vow to master them all. However endless the Buddha's way is, I vow to follow it completely. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Tayata Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Soha. Tayata Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Soha. Tayata Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Soha. So now get yourself ready for the meditations. Initially releasing the tension from the body. Then we do the short breath meditation followed by the Metta meditation or the loving kindness meditation. So, nice comfortable position for you. Let go of any tension you may have in your body. You can start from the bottom of the body, work your way up to the shoulders, then down to the fingers, and then back up to the top of your head. So let's take a few moments to do this now. And when you've done this sufficiently, then scan your body once more to see if there's any leftover tension that you can get rid of. Or that you can release is probably a better word. And now bring your mind to your breath. Place your mind on the feeling of your breath as you breathe in and out your nose, in all the way into your lungs, and then back out your nose again. And just to remind you, if you are so inclined, you can also add the extra technique of counting the breaths, 1 up to 10, and then back to 1 again. So 1 in-breath and out-breath is 1, and so on and so forth. But if you get distracted while you're counting on the way to 10, at that time, let's say, for instance, it's at the count of 4 or 5, then go back to 1 at that time. So now if you have some distractions, some thoughts arise, some feelings arise, mental feelings, don't cling to them, don't grasp at them, don't try or deny them, but simply let them go naturally by replacing your mind back onto your breath. No stress. Don't try too hard. Don't try too little. If your mind becomes a little bit dull, then wake it up a little bit by refocusing on the breath more brightly. So let's practice like this for a few minutes in silence. So now you can feel very pleased with yourself for engaging in the practice. And fill yourself now with universal loving kindness. You can either do it by just using the feeling, or you can utilize the visualization of white light or white nectar, filling your whole being. You are your own best friend. The word Metta, that we translate into English as universal loving kindness, and some other words. Sometimes the word love is used, sometimes the word kindness is used by itself. I like to use the word universal because it covers everywhere. There's no limit. It is also closely related to the word mitra, which means friend, so friendly. So the universal loving kindness includes friendliness, non-violence, harmlessness, honesty, acceptance, forgiveness, all of these good qualities. So now let's radiate our loving kindness out to others, initially to your loved ones, family and friends, filling them with the universal loving kindness as well, wishing that they be happy, free from suffering, and be peaceful. Now also include strangers, those that you don't really think about. You don't have any attachment towards them or aversion from them or towards them. May they also be happy, free from suffering, and be peaceful. Now also include those that you may regard as enemies, those people that you find very difficult. Fill them with the universal loving kindness as well. May they also be happy, free from suffering, and be peaceful. So now let's radiate this loving kindness out further and further distance-wise, starting initially towards all the living beings around your immediate area. Living beings that live in the waters, on the land, fly through the air. Whether they are born from wombs, eggs, moisture, through transformation. Whether you're aware of them or not. And of course, whether or not you have attachment towards them, indifference, or even aversion. Share this loving kindness to all living beings. Now increase the distance of your radiation of the loving kindness to now include all the living beings within your state or county. And other states and counties throughout your whole country. And other countries throughout the whole world. Initially those that you have nice feelings for, some sort of affinity with, and also to those that you have indifference towards, and to those countries, for whatever reason that you may have some sort of negative feelings towards, until your loving kindness pervades this whole planet. May all of the living beings throughout this whole planet be happy, free from suffering, and be peaceful. And throughout other worlds, throughout the solar system. Further and further now to include all the solar system galaxy and all of the galaxies within this known universe. Till your loving kindness pervades throughout infinite space. And also be present here and now, and let's recite the dedication prayer. Due to this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of the Buddha, so that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious bodhicitta, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. And may the precious view of shunyata, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. In other words, all of the merits that we accumulate from the past, the present, and into the future may be dedicated towards attaining enlightenment. And all living beings attaining enlightenment. And to do that, of course, we need to develop the bodhicitta, this great altruistic, compassionate intention, as well as realize the supreme wisdom of emptiness, of shunyata. And so that's what the short prayer is basically affirming or reaffirming to ourselves, that we do dedicate all of this goodness towards the ultimate goal of enlightenment. Always remember that too. And remember as well that you cannot attain enlightenment without all of these good qualities that we've been speaking about in depth, including this loving kindness. It's not separate from the wisdom. It's not separate from the bodhicitta, the awakened compassion, the awakened mind or enlightened mind. And so we are continuing the commentary on the Metta Sutra, or in full Karaniya Metta Sutra, the Buddha's words on universal loving kindness. And we will finish up today the first verse. I'll also remind you that the way that I've grouped it together is in 4 verses for the sake of the song that I wrote for it, or with it, I should say, utilizing the sutra's words. And the first verse relates predominantly to morality, which is what we're in the middle of talking about. And then, of course, the next week we start to dissect the second and third verses, which predominantly relate to meditation, absorbing the mind with this loving kindness. And then the 4th verse is predominantly related to insight or wisdom. And so sort of, balancing it out in a sense, okay? So the first verse basically says this, the first part of the sutra says, this is the work for those who are skilled and peaceful, who seek the good. May they be able and upright, honest, of gentle speech and not proud. May they be content and easily supported, unburdened with their senses calmed. May they be wise and not arrogant and without desire for the possessions of others. May they do nothing mean or that the wise would reprove. And we've already covered it up to senses, Metta. So we've covered this is the work for those who are skilled and peaceful, who seek the good. May they be able and upright, honest of gentle speech and not proud. May they be content and easily supported, unburdened with their senses calmed. And so today we will talk about, may they be wise and not arrogant and without desire for the possessions of others. May they do nothing mean or that the wise would reprove. So obviously wise, wisdom is the opposite of ignorance. And of course here, ultimately we would like to have, or we're aiming towards realizing the supreme wisdom. But here also you can utilize this word wisdom as basically conventional wisdom in a sense, okay? So don't do things wrong. Know what to do, know what to pick up, know the good qualities that we need to develop and act upon them. Base all of our actions and words on these, on our thoughts on these. And also know what we need to abandon. So this is the wisdom that we're talking about here. May we be wise like this and not engage in unwholesome thoughts and then which lead to unwholesome actions and unwholesome words. And so to avoid this, and at very least, we should be harmless, And even if we get confused sometimes, fall off the path, get tired, things like this, but we should be wise enough to recognize this and then apply the antidote, isn't it? Apply the 4 powers of purification, of recognizing it first and then having a positive regret in engaging in any unwholesomeness. And then, of course, resolving not to engage in it again. And then having in mind the Buddha, your teachers, bodhisattvas, the wise beings, the good beings, the virtuous beings, and then engaging in that practice. So the 4 powers of purification. Whenever we fall off the path, it's almost like, if we are riding a bicycle or something down a path and then you fall off, and then obviously you have to collect yourself for a minute, maybe brush yourself off, or if you've hurt yourself, maybe apply some sort of relieving something. Maybe you need to put a band-aid on it if you have one handy, something like that. But then you get back up. And so getting back up onto the bike is like doing the purification practice. And then realizing, okay, obviously that was my fault. And even though sometimes I think we would blame the bike or blame the path or blame the city for not fixing the path. But actually, we're the ones that are engaging in that action. And so we need to be looking after ourselves in this situation. So look at it and go, okay, I did that. I regret in not concentrating or whatever it is. Now I will get back up and continue onwards on the Dharma path. Okay, so we need to be wise enough to recognize when we have made mistakes and then correct them gently. Don't hurry, don't rush, but thoroughly, correct those mistakes that we do make, and then rejoice when we are engaging in wholesome thoughts, actions, and words. Be wise enough to realize that. And don't be arrogant. Don't have this puffed up pride, this puffed up idea of ourselves, thinking that we're better than others, or even the opposite, worse than others. Or even in the middle there, we're competing with others. Let go of those 3 faults that arise from pride. The 3 faults there is arrogance, self-doubt, like low self-esteem, and jealousy, envy, as well as unhealthy competitiveness. Okay, so instead, practice the Dharma. It's much better for you. And so be wise and not arrogant, and without desire for the possessions of others. So if you take that just on face value to begin with, so often I think people want what others have, whether that be power, position, status, or whether it be material things. Somebody's bought a new car and you want that car. You think somebody else's house is better than yours, but it's all relative, actually. Sometimes we compare ourselves. Let's say, for instance, we see people that have more material wealth than us. Maybe it gives rise to jealousies, and maybe then we look down upon others that may have less material wealth, gives rise to arrogance. And then we're competing with everybody in between. This is unhealthy. And so we should try to drop that. What's the old saying? Don't worry about what the Joneses have or something. It's if instead practice the Dharma. Instead, if you see good people that have a good attitude, that are compassionate, reasonably wise, and kind to others, and at very least harmless, then rejoice in that. And then you can say, I need to reinforce that myself. I need to get better at that myself. Then if you see others behaving badly, don't soak it up. Don't do it yourself. Don't become like that. And also, everybody else in between, same. Say, if people are living meaninglessly, kind of like almost turning their back on reality, and sort of not getting to know about inconvenient truths, as I use that often, rather than living with comfortable lies, which so often happens. If you find yourself, you see people doing that, then make sure that you don't do that, because we ourselves have experienced what I just mentioned, those three different ways. And that's to quote myself, if you see good in others, let it be you. If you see bad in others, don't let it be you. Okay, so instead of thinking about, what does the actual word say here? And without desires for the possessions of others. Instead of engaging in that, in desiring what other people have, whether it be material or conditions or whatever. Instead, if you are going to think about others, think about them from the point of view that they are like relatives, even if we don't get on with some, don't agree with some, but they are like relatives. We're all related. And so then extend the loving kindness towards them, extend this compassion towards them. And at the same time, you can learn from them what to do if you're not doing it already, or if you are doing it already, then to do it consistently more and more. And then if you see them doing things that you shouldn't do, then that should remind you not to do it, engaging in any unwholesome thoughts, actions, and words as much as possible. And if people are living meaninglessly, turning their back on the truth, then this should reinforce your efforts not to do that, to face up to reality and to experience, it's fine, the inconvenient truth. I've come up with that saying again recently, even though it's been around for decades. I think the documentary filmmaker, Michael Moore, he had a TV show, I think in Australia, it was on SBS, I think. And I know, I can't remember what channel it was on in America, but I remember it being on. I didn't see it very much, but saw a few episodes years later. And it was basically pointing out things that people tried to cover up. He was very much basing the show on politics and the corruption within politics and things. But this example, I'm bringing this up now related to life, not only politics or certain things like that, but we want to see the truth. We want to perceive the truth, even if at first we don't like it. Okay, now this is relative truth I'm talking about, but eventually the ultimate truth. If we don't perceive the relative truth right now, and the fact that it's impermanent, has the nature of being unsatisfactory, and it has no substantiality, because it's always changing. If we don't perceive that and don't base our life on those or that, then how can we work our way towards realizing the ultimate truth? And even realizing this universal loving kindness, filling ourselves with it and radiating it to others. How can we do that? It's impossible. So we do need to face up to the truth. Now, of course, what I'm talking about now relates a lot to the 4th verse of this sutra. And I will repeat it later date. Okay, so the next little bit says, I think I've covered that. I mean, maybe I can see a few faces there, maybe thumbs up or nod or something if I can move on to the next sentence. Yeah, good. Okay, so may they do nothing mean, or that the wise would reprove. Now, obviously, universal loving kindness is not being mean. It's not being vindictive. It's not being vengeful. So we should avoid all of this. We should avoid being mean. Of course, sometimes you may be in situations where you have to be a little bit straightforward with some people, but do it with loving kindness in your mind if you ever get in that situation. And because inconvenient truths may be perceived as to others or by others as you being mean, but if you're radiating the loving kindness and care and friendliness, then there's less likely that will happen. And also, the main and important thing is that you will be protecting your mind. Okay, so do nothing mean, and or that the wise would reprove. So wise and kind people, the people that you can look up to, maybe that are more virtuous than us right now. Our teachers, for instance, or go further than that, the Buddha, even though the Buddha is not alive right now. We cannot perceive Sakyamuni Buddha in front of us right now, physically. But the thought of him, the thought of the other Buddhas and the great masters throughout history that were either very close to enlightenment or even attained enlightenment, we can think of them. And they're the ones we need to impress. You know, not just people that are turning their back on the truth, you know, not trying to impress others that really don't need to be impressed. Somebody asked me quite a long time ago now, when I first moved back to Australia from the US, and they said, aren't you worried that people think that you're not normal? In other words, strange. You know, this Westerner guy practicing Buddhism, you know, basically not following the winds of society, if you want to use a metaphor. You know, doing my best not to just be like a sheep. The saying that I've heard recently, the sheeple, be like sheeple, just following the norms of society. You know, sometimes we have to go against those winds because they're not good actions. And quite a lot of, you could say that's within society is actually blind. The actions, thoughts, the way people live, like I said, not facing the truth. And so we need to go against that. And I said to this person, they weren't being mean, by the way, they were being very loving. And I said, actually, if you look around, the word normal comes from the word norm. So the norm in society is, I said, I don't really want to be like the norm, because unfortunately, a lot of the world is, you know, run around on greed and unfriendliness, things like that. I don't want to be like that. So I'm very happy if people don't think that I'm normal, you know. So I hope you get what I mean. I'm sort of playing on words a little bit here, but anyway, so do what the wise would rejoice in. Not that what the wise would reprove. In other words, not approve. And so I think we have about 3 minutes to go. So I'll just wrap that up again. Instead of saying they, I'm going to say we now. May we be wise and not arrogant, and without desire for the possessions of others. May we do nothing mean, or that the wise would reprove. May we engage in the actions that the wise, the virtuous, rejoice in. If we want to impress others, impress virtuous beings. Impress wise people. Impress compassionate people. Though, in saying that, you don't need to impress anybody. What you need to do, you can say impress yourself, but even that's a little bit egotistical. Don't worry. Just continually practice the Dharma. Recognize when you fall off the path. Get back up, brush yourself off, and continue onwards in the right direction. Recognize when you're on the path and rejoice in that. And also continuously improve ourselves, whether that to do with more thoroughly practicing more accurately practicing compassion and wisdom and so forth, or whether that be improving and increasing and making it more consistent practice. Rejoice in that. So that's what we need to do, rather than sort of looking for approval from others. But if you want to have approval, like I said, have approval from the wise ones, the compassionate ones and virtuous ones. And you yourself will follow in their footsteps. Become more virtuous yourself. You become more compassionate yourself and become more wise yourself. So that covers the first verse. I think we took maybe 3 weeks to do that or something like that. And so next week we will start the second verse and the third verse, and maybe take 3-4 weeks, something like that for it. And so that's to do with the meditation part, absorbing your mind with the universal loving kindness. So live morally. This is the foundation of the spiritual path. Meditate, practice meditation. Develop the loving kindness, develop the compassion and the wisdom. I don't know how long we've got to go, so I'll rejoice in your goodness now and encourage you to practice well to the best of your ability. Share it with others. I see you next week.